This week's episode of our show is sponsored by RPG Wanderer's Tides of Murkport. You can try out Chapter 1 for free. Chapter 2 was just released and can be purchased as part of the Act 1 pass in the links down below.
This combination of both virtual-style tabletop gaming and choose-your-own-adventure text-based gaming combines together to give an experience for GMs who maybe don't get a chance to play very often, or players who don't have a GM, or people looking to engage with RPGs in a new and interesting way.
The result is that Tides of Murkport is a browser-based adventure that doesn't require a game master at all, allowing you to even dive into combat with a party of 2 to 4 characters.
It really is a love letter to classic RPG games that use sort of that text-based formula where you have your wheel of choices in the dialogue options that will direct the narrative in different ways. It makes it feel like an awesome hybrid of both playing a tabletop game or engaging with a classic computer game.
Best of all, Chapter 1 is available for free on the website in the description below, and you can pick up Chapter 2 once you're done with Chapter 1.
And now, on to this week's episode.
Greetings! My name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Callie McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes. Welcome to our channel where we cover everything D&D, including advice for players and guides for GMs.
We upload new videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Today, we are talking about how to play a Genie Patron Warlock in D&D 5e.
This Warlock patron was introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and offered a new option for Warlocks, one where your patron is a mighty genie.
Yeah, if you ever wanted your wishes to come true when it comes to a Warlock subclass, this just might be the ticket for something different, powerful, and unique compared to the ones introduced in the Player's Handbook or the default Hexblade that everyone plays.
Today we're going to be taking a look at how Monty and I would build a Genie Warlock. We're going to look at our ability scores and feats, spells, invocations, and some of the cool features that the Genie Warlock gets and how we would use them.
There's a lot to discuss, so let's get rolling. So when we take a look at the Genie Patron subclass, we have a very versatile subclass because we actually choose which type of elemental genie is our patron. Based on the 4 classic elements of earth, air, fire, and water, those being matched up with the different types of genies, the Dao, the Genie, the Afridi, and the Merid. So we choose what type of genie is our patron. We get our little magic lamp or vessel or bottle or whatever have you, and half of the expanded spell list is going to be the same, but then our choice of genie is going to give us the other half of the expanded spell list.
And I think from there you actually immediately get to choose sort of the flavor of Genie Warlock you're bringing to the table. And it also means that something I really like about this subclass is that no Genie Warlock needs to feel the same. Warlock is already a very versatile class. Between our invocations, spell choices, and Pact, you get a lot of variety. Now, on top of that, even within 2 people who chose the Genie Warlock, you can have different genies, different invocations, different pacts, and end up with 2 totally different characters. And I think that that's a really cool aspect of the Genie Warlock, is this extra choice. The other 2 major things that stand out to me with the Genie Warlock are, first of all, your Genie Vessel, which we will talk about in more detail as we're leveling up our character. But that's a very unique feature that I think is really cool and opens up a lot of play options. At high levels, we get not only limited wish, but access to the wish spell. And I think that that feature and access to that spell really make this something special, and I think automatically make it one of the better Warlock options out there.
But very specifically, these are high-level features. Limited Wish is your 14th level subclass feature, and the Wish spell doesn't happen until you get to level 17 and have to choose that as your Mystic Arcanum. Because of this, I think the biggest strengths of the Genie subclass overall don't happen until very high levels of play. And I think that this is definitely a character that you either want to play it as a single-classed Warlock that you're going to take all the way up to those high levels in a long-lasting campaign. And so for this, we're going to go all the way from level 1 to 20, basically, talking about all the build options all along the way, because the sweetest slice of the pie does kind of come at the end.
And really, we do want to talk about how you would use Limited Wish, which is a very unique feature. And because that doesn't happen until 14th level, as opposed to some of our build guides where we say, after level 10, do whatever, this is one of those build guides where I think we want to talk about some of the cool high-level stuff. Yeah. So with that, which genie are you going to pick?
I'm going to go with the classic Genie, the air elemental genie that is kind of iconic, but also really great for like the trickster style of play.
I mean, I think that all of the choices here are great. I myself am going to surprise everybody and go the blaster route. And I'm going to go with the Afridi, because I just feel like, I mean, fireball.
Regardless of our choice of genie, we are going to have a magic lamp or a bottle or a vessel that our patron gives us. This is a shared feature across all of the variants of the subclass. And this acts as a spell casting focus for your warlock spells. If you lose it or it's destroyed, you can remake it during a short or long rest, so there's no worry about what you're going to do with it like a wizard's spellbook or anything like that. And it has two very basic features. The simpler one is the Genie's Wrath. Once on each of our turns, when we hit with an attack roll, we can deal extra damage to the target, which equals our proficiency bonus, and and the damage type is based on our Genie type. So right off the bat, we get this just simple extra damage feature. But I think the meatier feature here, and the one that is more compelling and interesting within its implications, is the Bottled Respite.
This feature allows you to enter into the magical little compartment in your vessel and chill out there. And although this might not seem like much at first, features that come later allow you to build up on that. And also, there's a lot of implications for being able to enter a vessel. And even if you're not the stealthiest character in the party, one of my favorite things to do with this is you can enter the vessel, and then the rogue can carry the vessel and now get you into places. And that's actually one of the ideas that I'm going to be playing around with in my build as we move forward, is how to use our vessels to get in and out of places. I think that's so cool.
But most importantly, you can remain in the vessel for a number of hours equal to twice your proficiency bonus, which means that very early on, you can just jump in there and take a short rest. pretty safely, particularly if your vessel is something innocuous or something that is not ornate. So, well, you might be tempted to have a golden lamp or a very ornate lantern or some kind of very fancy and expensive looking ring with a hidden compartment in it. Something rather quotidian like a bottle or a clay urn that isn't fancy might have that kind of security through obscurity if you just want to set your vessel down, jump inside, and take a sleep.
Mine's a cardboard box so that you can set it anywhere.
With the orange written on it?
Yeah. No, I think when I'm imagining my vessel, now the book offers several suggestions for what your vessel can look like. But I think it's pretty open-ended, and this is a place where, as a DM, I would let my player describe their vessel almost any way they want, as long as it can be a handheld compartment item. I myself like the idea of the ring with the compartment in it. My reason for that is a ring is really easy to wear, hard to drop, hard to lose. And I like wearing rings. Not only that, but a ring is really easy to hand off to somebody else, and they can slip it on their finger or put it in their pocket. I like the idea of the ring with the compartment. I just think it's the most inconspicuous. It doesn't need to be a super fancy ring. I imagine mine has a ruby in it, which is the actual compartment. Ruby because red, because Afridi, because fire. That's my vibe.
I really like the idea of just a lantern because you can hang it on the wall or the ceiling, and it becomes a light source in that respect. Like, it could be a light source. And again, that tends to be one of those things that it just is there, like it just exists, right? Yeah. And so in a lot of spaces, we take lighting as a granted thing, and so if there's something else hanging around, if it looks expensive and ornate, that might be another matter entirely. But I like the idea of having that lantern to hold out. So
when you enter into your vessel and I'm carrying you around, are you the light of my life? Do you light up my life?
Okay.
You do. He does.
At 10th level, this feature actually powers up, because by 10th level, our proficiency bonus is high enough that we can actually stay in the vessel long enough to take a long rest. And our party can come into it with us. So this actually gives us a tiny hut-like feature where, again, your party can jump inside, take a rest, and be safe in that area. Again, you might run into problems if you set your lantern or your bottle down somewhere and someone comes along and picks it up and takes it away.
So that's actually some of my favorite shenanigans, is I think if you are a player and you're going to do this, there should be somebody who's like the watch.
Yeah.
Somebody to wear my ring and take a rest. But a camp with one person is far more inconspicuous than a camp with like 5 or 6 people. So you just come upon the rogue sitting by a fire wearing a ring, you don't think much of it, but the whole party is in there. But on the other hand, if you do put the whole party in, I as a DM, I'm going to be like, yeah, you wake up and you're somewhere else because somebody walked by and saw a lantern sitting on the side of the road and was like, oh, free lantern.
I think the ring is probably the most shenaniganery one, because you can see outside your vessel. And the idea of trying to engineer a circumstance where the ring is just lost on the ground and the guard finds it and your entire party's actually hiding inside it, or you get a party, like, I could see a situation where you have your familiar carry that ring somewhere you need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to get into the castle. Whole party goes into the ring. I'm looking through my familiar. My familiar carries and just drops the ring into the courtyard of the castle or through a window. There's so many wild options with this. And I mean, that's why I like the ring over the lantern. Lantern, beautiful. Light source, love it. Ring, easy to drop through a window.
Yep.
Easy to drop in front of a guard. And who's not going to pick up a free nice ring? You could just like give the ring to a party member who walks by the guards, drops it, and the guards are like, "Oh, and then they just keep walking, and the guards like, "Oh, all right."
Yep.
Who's not going to pick up a ring?
Overall, the last kind of big feature of the subclass itself is the fact that we get flight at level 6.
Yeah.
Which is very early on. It does last only a couple minutes. We can use it multiple times per day, but the fact that we can just start flying around is amazing. And I think getting flight really suits the combat role of the blaster or the controller. It's something that as a spellcaster, you kind of really like that defensive but utility feature as well. So having that baked right into our subclass is great. And then I think we can talk about the wish and limited wish stuff in the context of our spell selection, because that really does, what that does allow us to do is gain access to a lot more spells that we wouldn't normally have access to as a warlock, and there's a lot of strategy involved with how we use those. So when we get into the actual spells, we'll talk about those features in context. But for now, ability scores.
Got to start with ability scores. We've talked about the features of the class. That's just what we're excited about. But now we're actually getting to building our character. Obviously, warlocks are charisma-based spellcasters. So I'm putting a 15 in charisma if we're using point buy.
Yeah.
I think a 15 in constitution as well.
Yeah, I'm going to bump that up with resilient constitution at some point.
From there, I actually don't know. I would say dexterity feels relatively important, but it's kind of mix and match to your choosing.
I agree. I think that strength is not very important, and the truth of the matter is that intelligence isn't that important for warlocks either. Wisdom can help with saving throws. I think of all the other remaining ability scores, probably investing a little bit into your dexterity is warranted. If you really want to min-max the whole thing, you could go with an array that was strength 8, dexterity 14, constitution 15, intelligence 8, wisdom 10, and charisma 15. And then with this array, taking the custom lineage for +2 charisma, and then a feat that gives you another +1 charisma, you can have that 18 charisma right away at first level. And that's what I'm going to do.
That's fair. So that's our ability scores, but let's talk about feats. So we're both picking custom lineage. We're a sucker for getting a feat off the bat, especially with this build, because I noticed that as I was building it, I wanted as many invocations and as many feats as I could grab.
Yeah, oddly enough, I wanted to have more build options for this character too, so I agree.
Now, that being said, we all know Monty and I are a sucker for variant human and custom lineage. Anything goes here. If you have an ancestry that you're excited about, grab it. I just like the extra feat. And
I mean, the Genasi is quite thematic here.
Yes. That would be very well put. I also like warlocks and tieflings go together in my head.
They always do. I think that almost anything is playable here. I think that this is a cool place to, especially because the elemental creatures and the kind of elementally infused character archetypes, like if you did want to play something like an Aarakocra or a Tortle or a Goliath, those would feel oddly, or even playing a Triton and associating that with your elemental type, that would be kind of cool. Or being that kind of creature of two worlds where your genie patron is different from the elemental nature of your upbringing. Could be kind of fun as well.
A lot of options with the ancestry, but since we're both picking custom lineage, you want a +1 to your charisma right off the bat. What feat are you using to get that?
I'm going to get telekinetic.
Good
because
choice.
I think that I can get the +1 to my charisma, I can get the telekinetic push, and I can get mage hand out of that.
For myself, I want a lot of invocations as early as possible because I want to beef up my blaster nature. So I'm actually going to take Eldritch Adept at first level. And I'm going to take Agonizing Blast.
Interesting way to sneak in it early.
Right away at first level, my Eldritch Blast is doing extra damage. And then when we're using that Warlock Genie feature to add extra damage as well.
That stacks up quite a bit. That's quite nice, actually.
Yeah. From there, as we progress, why don't we talk about the other feats that we're thinking of picking?
I'm going to grab Resilient Constitution.
I am as well.
Yeah, that's going to be the 4th level pick. By 8th level, I'm going to max out my Charisma.
I'm not going to max it out, but I'm also taking the +2 to Charisma. I'm 1 Charisma behind you, but I got Agonizing Blast early.
So what about level 12?
This is where I'm going to max out my charisma by taking Fey Touched, because free Misty Step casting without using a spell slot and just adding it to my spell list.
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to add Silvery Barbs in there just to sure up some dice rolls.
I'm going to take Meta Magic Adept.
That's good.
I think that a Warlock gets a lot out of Meta Magic Adept because even though you only have 2 sorcery points, they line up with the fact that the Warlock doesn't have a lot of spell slots. So you're using them where they count. And so for this reason, I'm going to take Subtle Spell. So I can have 2 important spells that are Subtle Spelled, which is clutch. And I think I'm going to go with Empowered Spell because, once again, with Meta Magic Adept, it's hard to take the options that cost lots of sorcery points. So you either have the choice of, do you take Quicken Spell that you can use once, or do you take Empower Spell and be able to use that twice? I think Quicken Spell is probably the stronger option, but I'm tempted. It's like, do you Subtle 2 spells or Quicken 1? It can make a difference.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent choice. And I mean, as we move on to higher levels, I've gotten all the ones I want here. I'm thinking of something pretty standard, like maybe Warcaster if I want to shore up my Constitution saving throws. Could even take Alert, or I might look at Meta Magic Adept just to add that into my repertoire as well.
Yeah, I think I'll probably add Eldritch Adept in at higher levels just to grab one more invocation somewhere. But beyond that, the final feat at level 19 is kind of anything goes. The feats really dovetail nicely with the Pact and the Eldritch Invocations. And so for myself, my Pact, I'm going to go with the Pact of the Tome. Yeah. I really like the invocations that come along with it. And I like that it gives extra cantrips. And I really like that I can take the invocation to get ritual casting, because I feel that adds a lot of utility to the Warlock.
I went with flavor a little bit here, and I went Pact of the Talisman. It's a new pact also introduced along with the Genie Warlock in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. The talisman has some really interesting invocations that you can pick with it. I also would ask my DM if my talisman and my genie compartment can be one and the same. So either if we need to say the ring is in fact a talisman that you wear around your neck, sure. Or if I was allowed to make the talisman a ring, sure. I just like that idea that these can be the same entity.
You know, another weird sort of thing, just as a thematic idea with that, what if your genie's vessel had a metaphysical lock on it and your talisman was a chain with the key that opened? Like, what if your genie's vessel was a box?
Yeah.
And then the talisman was the key that opened that box.
There's something about pairing the talisman
Yeah.
and the Genie Warlock that feels iconic and
Yeah.
cool, and I like that, which is, I've never made a talisman warlock, so that's why I went with this pack to kind of explore what that meant. The talisman warlock allows me to add a d4 to an ability check an amount of times per day equal to my proficiency bonus, which, even though I'm a blaster, I still want to be useful at skills and being able to add an extra d4 just to help out with those tough rolls. I actually think is a really cool ability, and as we add things to the talisman through invocations, I think it gets even cooler.
Yeah. For myself, it's just the Pact of the Tome is going to be an opportunity for me to get the Guidance cantrip and Vicious Mockery, which I love, and one other choice. I'll probably just use it to bulk out the cantrips. I find Warlocks are a little thin on cantrips to get started, so I like that the Tome boosts that up. So because we're on the topic of the Warlock feature specifically, before we get into spells, let's talk about the invocations, because I think that the pairing of all these things together build on one another. It's really hard, though, to not take Agonizing Blast and Repelling Blast as your first two invocations.
Now, I already have Agonizing Blast.
That's true.
So I'm taking Repelling Blast and Lance of Lethargy.
So why are these so good together?
Well, Repelling Blast allows me to, when I hit with my Eldritch Blast, no action required, I can push them back 10 feet.
Yes.
Lance of Lethargy reduces their movement by 10 feet. And that also requires no action. This is where what I believe my build is going to be doing is coming online. I'm going to be blasting and dealing damage, quite a good amount of damage because I have Agonizing Blast and I have the Genie Warlock feature, and not letting them come close to me because I'm pushing them back and slowing them down.
I just think that for any Warlock, the combination of Eldritch Blast, Agonizing Blast, and Repelling Blast gives you such a reliable way to impact the battlefield in a consistent way, even if you're running dry on your spell slots. It means that you're going to be doing good damage, but you're going to have that on-demand battlefield control, which is the ante is up for you because you have Lance of Lethargy as well. But I think that for the Genie Warlock in general, the fact that you get flight early on means that you're also going to be able to use your Repelling Blast in interesting ways because you have a lot of mobility. It means that you're going to be able to find the angle to start bumping people around in interesting ways because you're always going to have the option to fly up and above and still push people away in angles that if you were a Warlock on foot, it's risky for you to get out to the side because someone's going to attack you. But the combination of being in the air and pushing people away means it's really hard for any melee attackers to get a beat on you.
And this is actually, as we progress with the invocations, at 5th level, I'm going to take Maddening Hex. Now, my play here is I'm shooting pool. I'm flying in the air, lining up my target, because Maddening Hex allows me to weaponize my bonus action on my Hex target. As a Warlock, I'm going to Hex a target, blast them towards more enemies, so that I try to get as many grouped together as possible, and then bonus action, blow up my Maddening Hex.
Very reliable and ongoing thing. For myself, I think that I'm happy with the amount of utility and damage that my Eldritch Blast has. So I'm going to make sure that I'm bolstering up my more fundamental spell casting, and I'm going to take Eldritch Mind because I got Resilient Constitution, I now have proficiency in Constitution saving throws, and I have the advantage on concentration checks, which means that the spell that I'm concentrating on is gonna stay in effect. As a warlock, my big strategy is pick a really impactful spell to cast using one of my spell slots that I'm going to concentrate on for the entirety of the battle. Because I can fly without needing to concentrate on that, I'm going to take to the air, drop whatever that big spell is going to be, and I'm going to be playing defense after that, playing utility after that. So for me, I want to make sure that that big concentration spell is going to stick, because I don't want to lose it and now have to use up another precious spell slot to get something rolling again.
That's fair. I didn't take Eldritch Mind. I still, similar play. Like, I want an area of effect spell on the battlefield to knock people into. We'll talk about that when we get to spell selection. But I think with Resilient Constitution, I get there. And if I did take Warcaster later on, I get there. As we move on to 7th level, though, this is where I'm going to start looking at the talisman-specific invocations. And again, just to continue on with the theme I'm going for, Rebuke of the Talisman. Rebuke of the Talisman allows me, if I am attacked, I can use my reaction to do a little bit of damage back and knock them back 10 feet. So with Rebuke of the Talisman, we're not here for the damage, it's for the movement, really. Like, we're only doing, I think it's equal to your proficiency bonus. So I'm only doing like 2, 3, 4 damage. But this means that now I have weaponized my bonus action with Maddening Hex, my reaction with Rebuke, and my action, several of which have movement capabilities. So I am both multi-weaponizing, able to deal quite a bit of damage for this blaster. Between the Warlock feature, Eldritch Blast, Agonizing Blast, and now the battlefield control with Repelling Blast, Maddening Hex, and we have Rebuke, the movement and damage dealing potential is actually now at 7th level. I can have really good battlefield control and damage dealing.
It's pretty good. I'm going to grab the Book of Ancient Secrets. This gives the ritual casting to the Warlock, and it just means that I can go all over the place finding whatever rituals I want to add and start using those regardless of what class they're available to. So I can grab Cleric rituals, I can grab Wizard rituals, but for me, I think the biggest ones that I want to start with are Find Familiar. Yeah. And so having a familiar that I can summon along that I imagine will be some sort of elemental bird, again, it's a huge amount of utility, even if it's just using the help action in combat or going off as a little explorer.
Your familiar could be a monkey because your patron is a genie and you're Aladdin. And all you need is a magic carpet, which is available. And
what if you just said that the flying ability was just summoning a magic carpet that you ride on?
Well, now you're in a whole new world. 9th level, I'm taking Devil's Sight. Why? Because I'm going to cast Darkness on myself, and now I have advantage on all my blasting.
I don't need to worry about that, because as a Genie Warlock, I get greater invisibility, so I can just slap that on myself and have all the benefits of basically what the Darkness combo gives you with none of the fuss. Instead, I'm going to take Gift of the Protectors. This invocation allows me to write someone's name in my tome, and if they drop to 0 hit points, they can be dropped to 1 instead. I had my doubts about this ability until Joe started using it in our Drakenheim campaigns, and it saved a lot of lives. Yeah, it's good. It's good because you could write your whole party members' names in it, and then you just kind of have this on-demand, I need to save somebody sort of feature.
At 12th level, I'm going to take another talisman one. I'm going to take Bond of the Talisman. This one was a little bit more quirky. It doesn't fit into my overall theme, but I want to start branching out a bit. Bond of the Talisman, if I give my talisman to somebody else, I can teleport to them and they can teleport to me. If I'm not entering my vessel for shenanigans, this just gives me another option of either battlefield maneuverability or infiltration options.
Nice. For me, at 12th level, I'm going to take Minion of Chaos. This allows you to cast Conjure Elemental as a Warlock. And I feel it's just appropriate thematically for the Genie Warlock to be able to summon an elemental of some kind.
Yeah, especially if you like model that after the element that you're tied to.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm going to continue with the Talisman at 15th level. I'm going to take Protection of the Talisman. This allows me to now apply my D4 rolls as well to saving throws.
Cool.
So at this point, I feel like I'm actually pretty robust at ability checks, saving throws, damage dealing, battlefield control. I'm pretty happy with flying around the battlefield like a wrecking ball.
Yep. Beyond this, at 15th level and beyond, I really like the idea of taking either Shroud of Shadow for at-will invisibility on myself, or Chains of Carceri, which allows you to cast Hold Monster at will, but only once per creature that you target, and it only works on kind of the outsider types like Fiends, Celestials, and Elementals. In any case, by high level, you start facing those a lot, and Hold Monster at will is, you can get a lot of mileage out of that over the course of a campaign. From there, I do like the idea of grabbing Farscribe somewhere for the sending feature of the Pact of the Tome, but at that point, I'm cool. I can kind of feel it out at the high end of the campaign and grab what feels necessary. I personally like to leave one feat and one invocation sort of open in planning in my character, because sometimes there's campaign specific things that happen.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to grab something that feels more appropriate and strong for that campaign.
At my high levels, I might take Eldritch Mind if I feel like I'm not doing well with my concentration, but there's so many cool options out there. These are just 2 build ideas, but I like how different we've gone.
Yeah.
When we get into actual spell choices now, this also, we're going to go on slightly different paths here.
I have a lot more ritual spells, and I have a couple more cantrips, but fundamentally we have the same number of leveled spells known.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm going to be able to grab Guidance, I'm going to be able to grab Vicious Mockery, in addition to having Eldritch Blast, and I'm going to get Mage Hand through the telekinetic feat.
Right.
We have the same number of leveled spells. You get a few extra pickups, though, because you're taking Fey Touch, too. But in terms of the core spells from 1st level to 5th level, the general pool of spells that I'm going to look at are going to be the sort of mind control, illusion type spells. So I'm going to pick up Suggestion. I'm going to pick up Invisibility. I'm going to pick up Phantasmal Force, which is on the Genie list. From the Genie list itself, I'm definitely going to grab Thunderwave for a couple levels. I'm going to trade it out and make sure that I grab things like Greater Invisibility and Seeming. I'm going to add to that Hypnotic Pattern. I think Thunderstep is also super appropriate here.
Yeah.
I'll probably pick up Synaptic Static at some point. Hex, of course, is indispensable. I take it with every Warlock that I play because sometimes you just want to do more damage with your Eldritch Blast. And I do think it's important to take one of those damaging area spells with any Warlock, like Sickening Radiance or Hunger of Hadar.
Yeah, and that's actually my place. So while you're focusing on illusions, mind control, and things like that, because I'm a blaster and I have all of this maneuverability, the other thing that I want is a good AoE effect that can stay in effect for me to continually blast my enemies into. I might pick up Armor of Agathis at early levels just to like give me that extra bonus. Yeah. Agathes. I'm also putting Darkness on myself for when I want to go full blaster and just give myself advantage on all those rolls with Devil's Sight. But then I'm going to definitely pick up Hunger of Hadar, Sickening Radiance, and even at later levels, for example, my 6th level spell pickup, I think I'm going to take Mental Prison. The thing I love about Mental Prison is it does a boatload of damage if the creature moves. It doesn't say that they have to move willingly, just as if they move. So I can cast Mental Prison, keep them there as well I need them while I take care of other things, and then blast them out of it to do 10d10 extra psychic damage. From my spell list from the Afridi, I'm probably focusing on Fireball and Flame Strike. Those are the 2 that I want.
I really want to grab Major Image. I'm going to have Seeming as well. And I think that those are going to give me lots of great utility in terms of illusion magic and things that I can do outside of combat. I do wish that the Genie Patron Warlocks got Summon Elemental. Summoning spells are really good on Warlocks, but they don't get Summon Elemental. They get almost everything else, but they don't get that one. And so I'm going to take Summon Fae because it's awesome. And I do think that Warlocks get a lot out of the summon spells that were introduced in Tasha's. Whether that is Summon Shadow Spawn, Summon Undead, Summon Fiend, or Summon Fae being the third level one. It's just one of those good spells that you can throw down and you get a lot of battlefield control, utility, damage, everything out of them. And it's a really great way to maximize the use of your Warlock spell slots.
I like specifically that you said that you wish Warlocks had these other summoning spells, because they do when we get Limited Wish.
Limited Wish comes online at level 14, and it's sort of like getting an extra Mystic Arcanum in the respect that you can use it once every D4 days. Again, a gripe. I wish that was just once per day. It would be fine if it was once per day. To cast any spell from any spell list of 6th level or lower, with the caveat that that spell has to have a casting time of 1 action. So unfortunately, we can't use this for some of the really special long casting time spells like Contingency or Raise Dead. We also can't use it for any reaction speed spells. We can't use it for any bonus action speed spells. But there's still a lot of options within this that are great. And we still have the Warlock spell list more broadly, which still has Force Cage and Mass Suggestion and stuff on it for our other Mystic Arcanums. But we get this flexible thing that we can pull in when we need it. So what kind of spells might you use?
Well, here's the beautiful thing, and I want to say this. We're going to list some awesome spells here. But what I love about this feature is because it's any spell list, level 6 or lower, action to cast. There are a lot of niche spells that are really hard to say, oh, I should take this spell because it's going to always be useful. No. But with Limited Wish, if the right moment happens in the campaign where you think, oh, you know, it would be really helpful right now, this really niche spell, that is the perfect use of this ability, I think.
And it ignores the costly material component. So this is great to use with Greater Restoration or Revivify. Heal doesn't have a material component, but you can also use it with that too. All of these are spells that sometimes you're like, I don't get these as a Warlock. I might not cast them all the time. But knowing now with Limited Wish that if your Cleric dies, you can Revivify them. If somebody is incapacitated by a nasty spell or turned to stone, you can fix it with Greater Restoration, and you didn't need to bring along the material component for it either. And you've got heal in your back pocket if you need it as well.
So this already brings healing capabilities and like problem solving for like curses, diseases, all of that. Problem solved because you have Limited Wish. I also think these really niche spells like Modify Memory or Pass Wall, those are spells that I'm like, oh, they're really cool. I actually love both those spells, but rarely take them.
The situations that Modify Memory and Pass Wall deal with are things that might only come up once or twice during the campaign. And so you're just like, perfect opportunity.
I love the idea that like you're trapped in a room and you have to solve this elaborate puzzle and the room's filling with water and you're going to drown and you're just like, Pass Wall. We're done. We're out.
So I do want to shout out 3 super tricky spells, though, that are kind of interesting in what they imply because they work outside of the realm of using the spell. So the first one is Programmed Illusion. Programmed Illusion lasts until it's dispelled. And so you can grab Programmed Illusion with this feature, create some sort of illusory effect to hide an environment, and it's going to stay for until it's dispelled. The next is Word of Recall. Word of Recall is a teleportation spell that teleports you back to your sanctum, as defined by your deity, which, as a DM, I would rule this as defined by your patron. And it's one of those rare ways that you can access long-distance teleportation as a Warlock that is action speed. Because Warlocks now do get Teleportation Circle, but they don't get Teleport full on. And the final one is Liamon's Secret Chest.
Yeah.
Because you can cast Liam's Secret Chest, put stuff in it, and then after you've cast the spell, you can recall it anytime in the next indefinite. Beyond this, I mean, you can throw down a Chain Lightning or a Disintegrate. You can throw down a Sunbeam. Yeah.
You could also, I mean, there's a lot of great 6th level spells and 5th level spells that you can just, for 5th level, I mean, we have Arcane Hand, Animate Objects, Wall of Force, great pickups.
Spells that normally you don't get access to as a Warlock.
Yeah.
If you needed them. It's a tricky thing because when it's a once every D4 day feature, you really want to have it matter.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that you can do with it. I mean, I would definitely use it on a spell that has a bit of a longer duration, I think. But it has a lot of utility behind it, as long as the spell that you pick has a casting time of 1 action. Remember that. If it has a 1 minute casting time, if it has a 1 reaction or bonus action, it's off limits.
When you get into lower spells, I don't think there's a lot. I would probably save this for my 5th and 6th level spells.
Yeah.
But you do get access to something like Spirit Guardians if you're surrounded by enemies, or I mean, if you really need that sending spell, or Aura of Vitality for healing. Like there are pickups that you would not normally be able to get that could just save the day. And I think that even having Wish when we get 9th level spells, I'm not going to name everything, but the same general idea applies on a grander scale. That now, if there's a problem that a rare random spell could fix, you can do it.
So it's important to note that the way that you get Wish is it's added to the Warlock spell list, which means you have to pick Wish as your Mystic Arcanum for 17th level, for the 9th level Mystic Arcanum. This is an interesting issue that I'll just point out, is that if you use Wish for anything other than replicating a spell, there's a 33% chance you can never cast it again. Which means that if you do use Wish for something out of the ordinary, you have to wait till you gain a level to retrain it out from your Mystic Arcanum.
That's the gamble of working with a genie, I guess.
I guess so. So it does mean that you really probably only ever want to use Wish for replicating another spell of 8th level or lower. And that's kind of the gut punch here, is that as a Warlock, then you'll never have a true 9th level spell.
But access to every other spell in the game at your fingertips it's still
you've
only
gained
once
the
most
day.
Powerful Swiss Army knife in the world.
It is true, but it might be worthwhile. I mean, it's obviously it's the best pick. I don't know, like, it just kind of.
Also, we're a Genie Warlock.
Yes, and we obviously want to be able to have it, but I do wish that there was. I wish that I could have more wishes.
But you're not allowed. That's the rule. Something that I like about the two characters that we built here is I actually think if both of these characters were in a party together, they would complement each other really, really well.
Yeah.
Which is something really fun about Warlocks and the Genie Warlock. We picked different genies, different invocations, different spells, different feats, and we ended up with two very different builds that I actually think would benefit from each other.
Yeah, we could be an elemental cult serving the Elder Elemental Eye and its cadre of genies that wish for the world.
Well, there you go. We have a campaign idea as well. If you've played a Genie Warlock and have tried out your own builds or own combination of many of these ideas, let us know about it in the comments below.
The videos that we create on our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the work that we do here on YouTube, please consider becoming a patron of our show by following the links in the description below.
And if you want to see a Warlock in play, you can check out our adventures in the world of Drakenheim, which airs Tuesday evenings on Twitch. You can find all the previous episodes right up over here.
And we got plenty more build guides for D&D 5e right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you never miss an episode.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time
in the dungeon.